I think areas of his time have been better than I expected, I must say.
What do you think about the nostalgia surrounding Hollywood and the old Hollywood and the days of the studio systems and all that and being so revered? I mean, does it deserve that much credit?
Yes, I think so. It's gone. I don't know to return or not. The contract system is just gone, the way it was.
Do you think Bette Davis would have survived if it had not been for the contract system, or for that matter,
well, I think
many
it's
of
a
the other
big
stars?
help. There are a lot of young girls today that could have a much bigger and faster career if there were a contract system.
Mm-hmm.
Because they keep you keep on, and the public gets to know you, film after film after film. That isn't any more possible with any of the new players.
Now, under the contract system in those days and up until it was phased out, the salaries were not that high, but you worked continually. And then, of course, I imagine...
Yes, oh, we didn't have any kind. The money today is mind-boggling.
Overpaid, you think?
Well, I think with 3 or 4 days' work, I don't know. Over $1 million, I don't know what you could do in 3 or 4 days for that. I think it's terrible. I really do.
You ever felt you were overpaid?
Well, I never was overpaid.
Were you... were you ever...
No,
wait, let's
what
go to...
I mean is,
yeah.
what I really meant was, money was never first. When I made Jezebel, I was only making $600 a week. I never fought for money.
Well, what? All right.
Because you can overprice yourself. But when I started getting into the big money, which was later, I always earned it. Because if you don't earn it, you're in soup. Then they're going to get rid of you or whatever.
Yeah, I've always been curious. What happens after you win an Academy Award and you're in the studio system getting $600 a week? And I remember the fights that you used to have with the studio. If you didn't want to do a picture, you put your foot down, and they would suspend you.
Yes.
So what would happen? Obviously, you're worth more money to them after an
But
Academy Award.
after the Oscar for Jezebel, actually, nothing much was done about me. No, it was quite a little later. I definitely asked for more money.
Yeah.
But when I asked, they knew I was worth it by then.
Who do you think personifies the Bette Davises of today, the Coopers, the Gables today? Do you have any favorites? People you think have tremendous promise or who are already there, in your opinion?
Well, I think Sissy Spacek is a terrific talent. Terrific. I think Lindsay Wagner, if the right properties and everything come along, I think she could have a huge career. I think Sissy Spacek could also. But that's the difficulty today, the scripts.
Yeah, what about male stars? Any favorites?
Well, I think the most attractive man today is Burt Reynolds.
Looking back, is there anything that you should have fought for and something that you did fight for?
One thing I shouldn't have given up. I had a contract to produce 6 films at Warner's. I was the producer of one, A Stolen Life. It was good. But like their child, they wouldn't leave me alone and let me do it. So I felt I wasn't really producing, so I gave up the other 5. I think that was a huge mistake. Yes, and if I had it to do over again when I was asked, to do some certain plays in New York, I should have,
Yeah.
I should have maybe done that.
The book
but for the most part,
you're happy with it?
Well, for the most part. I'm never terribly happy with myself, but for the most part.
This book is called This and That. What would, if you could write one more book about Bette Davis, about her life, what would it be titled? Have you thought of that?
Mr. Gary.
Yes.
I will never write another book.
As you said yesterday, the book is really not a rehash, so to speak, of your career, but it's
No,
this and that. It's kind
It's
of...
lots of things I have never talked about.
yeah.
It's just that.
Yeah, one of the things that you mentioned in there that I was quite surprised, and so were many of the staff that I talked to, had not realized that All About Eve, Eve Channing was designed... Margot Channing? I'm sorry. Margot Channing was originally designed for Claudette Colbert?
It was an accident. I got it because she broke her back. And they had to be in San Francisco one particular week. So Mr. Zanuck called me and asked me if I'd read a script. And I would have to be ready to go in a week. Well, if possible, I would have been ready to go tomorrow.
Yeah.
When I read it. It was marvelous.
I just can't imagine the picture being the same picture, and it probably
well,
wouldn't.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was marvelous, marvelous, marvelous. And it's the greatest, it's a classic of theater people. Especially a woman who was worrying about the age thing.
Yeah.
Classic.
You've been married 4 times, and I remember a quote from Hedda Hopper, a wonderful columnist here in Hollywood for many years. She said, Betty always does her best work when she's in love.
Yes.
And you have said that you love the idea of being in love, but you're seldom really in love.
Well, I think through all the years I did love being in love.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to be in love. The whole world looks different. The whole thing is marvelous. And as long as this lasts, it's wonderful. Unfortunately, this kind of euphoria is a big clunk when you come to and, and really see the person. As regards being in love, my best work. Gary, I was certainly in love with.
Gary Merrill.
But, yes, but I really do flatter myself that without